and New York.
Right. So, as I said, we are here with Kathryn Kliff because the conditions inside the homes are horrific. What can be done to help these people so vulnerable who are trying so hard, working, just, you know, trying to be productive members of society, let alone raising their families. This is Kathryn Kliff, and she is a staff attorney at the Legal Aid Society. Kathryn, thank you so much for being here. One of the things that's surprised, because of course it's so upsetting what is going on, but the Legal Aid Society wrote a letter a year ago trying to get some attention to this, and I'd just like to read a little part of that, if you don't mind. In it, you expressed concern for, quote, the lack of adequate inspections of permanent housing units for families exiting DHS shelter with city-funded programs. You also said you encountered, quote, an alarming number of clients who signed apartment leases through various city-funded programs, including Link Soda and the enhanced one-shot deal. Many of these families have been forced to return to the shelter system because the conditions in the apartments are dangerous, especially for children. Multiple families had no heat in their apartments in the middle of the winter. So going back, it's as upsetting then as it is now. What was the response from the city?
So unfortunately, we haven't seen the response we were hoping. What we were asking for in that letter was for them to be more proactive about connecting families with resources in the places they were going. I think a lot of families, you know, felt pressure to move to these places, or, you know, excitement at the thought of leaving shelter, moving somewhere new, only to find themselves in a new environment without access to the services that they might have had in New York City. So we really had pushed the city to provide these families with some type of resource, some type of guide for how do you access services if things go wrong. If there are problems with the apartment, you know, if you're having trouble getting access to benefits that you might have had here, what do you do? And unfortunately, we have not seen that. We also haven't seen more robust inspections of the apartments, obviously, given the stories you've seen recently. You know, that letter was a year ago, and we're still seeing some of the almost the exact same conditions that we noted from clients a year ago.
So SODA, and again, we have become familiar with the acronym, and just in case you're first hearing it, explain exactly what that is. Does every family have the right to apply for that, or does the DHS say this is what you're going to do? How does it work?
So there are a variety of programs DHS offered at the time they first introduced SODA. SODA it's called a special one-time assistance program, and it is special in the sense that it is a year's worth of rent that you can use anywhere. Most of the programs you can only use in New York City, but it was targeted at families who had the ongoing ability to pay rent. So the idea was that once the year was up, families would be able to pay the rent going forward and remain stably housed. So it was targeted at families who had some type of income, whether it was work income or disability income, that could allow them to continue to stay housed.
So what rights do they have, these homeless tenants, when they're in these situations?
It depends where they live. So in New York City, you have pretty robust tenancy laws, and we now have universal access. So if you are taken to housing court, there's a really high chance you can get an attorney, often from our organization or other legal services providers. But in other jurisdictions, they don't have nearly that robust of an option for families when they hit these roadblocks or end up in housing court or have conditions issues. So depending on the jurisdiction, it may be much, much less of an option for families to receive the help that they need.
What about the rights that, I mean, what are they losing, you know?
So again, it really depends where they're going. Some states are much better about offering benefits.
I mean, it's just they could be completely helpless.
Right. It
Legally,
really,
I mean.
It depends on where they are, right? But yes, New York City has some more robust both laws to protect tenants and also agencies that can help, benefits available, all these different things. Also, you know, if you were living in shelter in New York City, you probably had connections to a whole swath of providers, social workers, other people you've been working with, and to take you out of that situation to a new situation, you've lost all of the connections you might have had. Some families may have had connections to places they moved, but many of the families we spoke to were just trying something new. They're trying to find a more affordable place to live.
So you said you've had contact with some of these families, and just letting us know a little bit more about what the Legal Aid Society does. What can you do for them?
Right. So once you've left New York City, it depends on what you're trying to achieve. So if you had to leave your apartment elsewhere and come back to New York City because it was so unlivable, in that case, we at the Legal Aid Society and our Homeless Rights Project, we are working with the family to help them with their application for shelter, making sure they're not encountering roadblocks there, and also trying to reach out to the Department of Homeless Services to see if there's anything they can do to help the family remain housed or find new housing. If you decide to stay in the jurisdiction where you've been, there's not much the Legal Aid Society can do because we serve New York City residents, and so we try and connect people to legal services providers in the jurisdictions where they are, and hopefully they can find an attorney or someone who can assist them with the issue if they want to stay.
I would think also just the issue of, I mean, they are just weighted down and feeling so helpless. Part of this is just support, emotional support that all of us have to give these families.
Absolutely. I think it's very frustrating for families. You know, some of the families that I speak to, they are the most upset when they have a voucher and they can't find a way to get out. So the excitement of finding a way to get out and moving out is wonderful, especially if you've been in shelter for a while. It can be really hard on your family, on your children. And so to move out and have the option of a home seems like a great idea, and then to go to a home that is unlivable or unsafe. You know, families put up with the conditions for quite a while, often, as the stories you've uncovered, the people we've talked to, and that's because they really wanted to get out. They wanted to be housed, and so people that are coming back, they're doing so at a last resort because they don't know what else to do. I mean, they want the dream. They want their dream home. And again, thank you for coming in as we continue to report on forgotten families here. We appreciate it. Kathryn Kliff, who is with the Legal Aid Society. Also, Mayor de Blasio just recently told us that he was unaware of any issues with soda. Pardon me about that. Pardon, we're going to continue on, sorry. We'll be right back after this.